All right. So here we are recording our Maple Foods Beyond Syrup, Maple Sap Water, an emerging functional beverage. This is a program of the URI Cooperative Extension, which is the public engagement arm of the University of Rhode Island. And I'm your host, Amanda, and I'm so great to meet everybody who's here. We have some favorite maple products coming in on the chat, and we're looking forward to learning more about an emerging maple product here tonight. So I just want to welcome everyone, and we'll get this going. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We do have a Q&A box, and you can go ahead and throw those Q&A questions in there, and we will address those at the end. And if they are specifically to one of the panelists, please make sure you indicate which, if you have a specific question for a specific panelist. And then there will also be a survey that goes out after this. And if you could please help us out by filling out that survey, it means a lot to our work here at the university and our work with maple water. And all the maple products are coming in now. This is so fun. Ooh, maple hickory nut sandwich cookies. Okay, all right. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and begin by introducing our panelists. First, we have our URI maple expert, Dr. Navindra Seeram, and he's a professor and chair at the Department of Biomedical and Pharmaceutical Sciences in the College of Pharmacy here at the University of Rhode Island. And his research group, the Bioactive Botanical Research Laboratory, investigates medicinal plants and their derived natural products for preventative and therapeutic effects against chronic human diseases. Really, really amazing work. He's right now the principal investigator of several grants from the USDA to study maple products, and these include establishing the Maple Collaborative. And if you do refer to the chat, I threw the link to the Maple Collaborative up there. That's going to be uri.edu/maple for the marketing promotion of maple syrup, and also to define the standards and identify what constitute authentic maple water. And that is the product that's bringing us all here together today. So that leads me to introduce Kate Weiler from Drink Simple. This is a really new to the whole, to a lot of us, to me especially, and I was so excited to learn about all of this with you here today. So Kate Weiler is an Ironman triathlete, impressive, and a passionate advocate for nutrition and holistic wellness. She's a Boston native and earned her master's degree in nutrition from Northeastern University and her bachelor's degree in psychology from Colby College, and holds a certificate in holistic health coaching from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. Oh my gosh, we got all the stuff going on. I love the nutrition. Kate has completed countless marathons and triathlons, including 12 full-distance Ironman races, which actually led her to her first sip of maple water. So we are so excited to have her here today to really tell us about this ultra hydrating and delicious water that's tapped from maple trees. One last introduction, and that's me. Hello, I'll be your host for this evening. I'm Dr. Amanda Missimer. I'm a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Nutrition here at the University of Rhode Island, and I also work in cooperative extension in the areas of food recovery, nutrition, food access, food insecurity, and now as the MC of this exciting maple panel. So, you know, as a nutritionist, I'm also a dietitian. I am really interested in this stuff and anything that could help us on our health journey. So that will take us to our very first question. So let's start at the beginning. Dr. Seeram, can you tell us about the history of maple products and your work here at URI?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Amanda. Hi, Kate. And thank you to all of you for sharing a little time in your evening with us tonight. So, Amanda, to answer your question, I have been at URI for approximately 12 years now. I moved to the East Coast from my previous job, which was at UCLA on the West Coast. And when I came here, being someone who works with medicinal plants and trying to understand what in plants are beneficial for us, I came brand new to the East Coast, and I was looking around, and just like many people on the East Coast do, and say, well, what natural product is really niche? and endemic, and really from this part of the world. Didn't take me long to figure out that it was maple. And just to clarify, for those of you who may not know, maple syrup, which many of you know is a sweetener obtained from maple trees by taking the sap. And in this case, sap is not sticky. It's very watery. It's about 99% water. Sap is collected and it's boiled to produce maple syrup. So my interest at that time aligned with my moving to the East Coast and trying to understand what are the potentially beneficial compounds in maple syrup beyond sucrose. We know it's a sugar. And it extended then to, well, what is in syrup, and then maybe what's in syrup is what's in sap. So we also kind of started to look a lot of chemistry with syrup and sap. So long story short, moved to the East Coast, stars aligned, looking at this natural product, which is niche to this part of the world. The trees are only found here. This product is only produced here. It's the first agricultural product of the year on the East Coast, and it's a very niche North American product. So I'll get back to some other points later, Amanda, but thank you for asking that.
Oh, that's so interesting how it's very interesting that all that came together locally, how the stars aligned, as you said. So before we get into maple water, do you want to quickly talk about your involvement in maple syrup and then lead us into maple water?
Yes, so the question that we were asked or trying to answer when we started research on syrup is everyone knew that maple syrup is a sweetener. And indeed, it is a sweetener. Its major constituent is sucrose, just like you would find sucrose in refined sugar. Unlike refined sugar, which is only sucrose, maple syrup also contains minerals and vitamins and amino acids and organic acids and phytonutrients or plant antioxidants, which are found in the plant itself and also in other healthy plant foods. So our group at the College of Pharmacy at URI has published extensively on the constituents found in maple syrup. And please, as Amanda said, you could go to our website, the URI Maple website, and you'll find tons of information. But at any rate, if you could imagine a maple tree which is moving nutrients from its soil to its through its veins, if you will, to the new buds and the new leaves which are going to be formed in spring, which is indeed what happens. Sap is collected late winter into early spring and boiled. So as we started discovering a multitude of phytonutrients in maple syrup, it wasn't hard for us to hypothesize that lo and behold, hey, what's in syrup? Indeed, you're producing compounds during boiling, like the flavor and odor, but maybe a lot of the phytonutrients that we were finding in syrup were coming from sap, which makes sense. So what's in sap is persisting in the boiling process and surviving and found in syrup. So by extension, if you were to back up, then we asked the second question, well, what is in maple sap? And we'll talk more about Kate about that for sure. But indeed, phytonutrients are also present in sap in lower concentrations because 40 liters of sap would become 1 liter of syrup. But for sure, there are vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients in maple sap without a large quantity of sugar.
I think that is just so interesting. I just threw it in the chat that 40 liters of that maple water equals 1 liter of syrup. Definitely, really, you don't think about how much goes into that little bit. You're pouring on those pancakes. That's really interesting. Thank you so much for telling us of your journey through that. Now, if we can move over to Kate, we'd like to know how you got involved in maple products.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I was doing an Ironman triathlon in Mont-Tremblant in Canada and getting ready for registration for the race and walked into a coffee shop where I found a small manufacturer's maple water. And it was the first time I've ever seen this packaged and had no idea that the sap that came from the tree was this hydrating water-like substance. So I had a similar misconception that a lot of people have, that sap is sticky like pine sap. You have visions of climbing pine trees when you're a kid and that stuff on your hands is sap. And really couldn't believe that this was something that was so delicious, so hydrating. Tried the product and felt immediately better and boosted, and just felt the effects of the maple water immediately when we tried it. And so then really there was something about this product that really stuck with us. We felt like, okay, there's this boom and this really need business demand for natural hydration. This was in 2013. So we saw coconut water gaining steam and really in people moving away from Gatorades and vitamin waters and some of these manufacturers drinks, and they really wanted something more natural. And we couldn't believe that here there was a local resource. We were native New Englanders, and that had maple trees in our backyard. And similar to what Navindra was saying, was that this is something that's local to our region, and was really wondering why anyone else wasn't tapping maple trees and creating this natural hydration of maple water, especially because coconuts were being shipped across the world for this natural hydration. So then did a little bit of research and actually found URI's study. It had been published 6 months, or exactly 6 months earlier, in a journal, and found that there were 46 phytonutrients present in maple water. And so that was really, for me, that was something that would really validified that, okay, this is the effects and the boosts and the hydrating things that we were feeling is based in science, and that there are studies on this, and that it is primed to be a functional beverage. And so once we found that study and realized that, we figured other people would really benefit from it as much as we did. We loved that it was half the sugar of coconut water and better tasting, in our opinion. I mean, coconut water is pretty polarizing of a taste. So those were other just bonus attributes that really contributed to the launch of Drink Simple.
Wow, that's so interesting. And to have the trees in the backyard, I'm just wondering, and maybe one of you knows the history, how it went directly to the maple syrup and how our ancestors didn't think, I should maybe drink this stuff.
So people have been drinking it for hundreds of years. So yeah, there's a quote that it was in the Boston Globe when we had first launched, and it was said the earliest explorers dubbed this the wholesomest drink in the world. The thing that's different is that it really could only be consumed during the harvest season and in season. So now we have the ability to bottle and enjoy year round, but it has been consumed for hundreds of years during that time frame.
Another
this is one
secret.
This is one of the crops which was not brought to the New World by the settlers. This was here. The indigenous people, the first people, would use this as a tonic. And so the first people, the indigenous folks, the native people from this part of the world, they figured out ways to collect maple water, and they would bring it to some sort of a consistency, not like syrup, but they would remove by boiling rocks and dropping it into baskets to kind of concentrate it. But yeah, the answer is, as Kate said, this has been around for centuries, and it's only now, I think, with a company like Drink Simple, where we can have it clean, pasteurized, or filter sterilized in a nice package. I know I have a Tetra Pak here. I know Kate has the sparkling seltzer. But it is really, again, a product which is so unique and niche and culturally, economically, really important to this part of the world. And for a professor working in a land grant, sea grant university here in this part of the world, it's important for us to kind of educate and collaborate with local companies such as, Kate's company, to really educate folks and say, hey, keep the trees upright, keep them erect, don't chop them down, don't put up more shopping malls. This is sustainable agriculture, good forestry management. It has all of the pieces, again, that comes together for a really wonderful natural product that is really natural with no additives.
Thanks for adding all of that. And there's been some really exciting things said about the sugar content, about the sustainability. And I do want to circle back around to the sustainability. Before we get back to that, I'd like to actually continue the timeline. You really enlightened us with the story about how the original people used maple water. So, Kate, can you speak to how maple water is made today?
Yes, so it's very similar to maple syrup production. So it's the same infrastructure. So farmers are tapping maple trees, and if it were to be produced into maple syrup, what would happen is that the sap water would be gathered, and then it would go through a reverse osmosis, and then it would be boiled down to make syrup. And so it's like I said, it's 40 liters to 1 liter. So it is a long process to be able to boil that down. So instead of boiling it down, it's the same infrastructure. We take and gather the sap. We filter it, clean it up, and make sure that it's safe to go into a packaging. And we put it into either the Tetra Pak and do a pasteurization, or we put it into our cans and carbonate it. So that's really from a simplicity. It's a very simple product. There's not much that we do. It's actually more steps to make syrup than to make the maple water.
Really interesting. And I think it's really cool that it can be both in that shelf stable, very temperature regulated state, and then also in the carbonated. I have to say personally, I also like the cucumber carbonated one that Kate's drinking tonight. That's my favorite as well. And we'll get into fun stuff at the end of this talk about recipes, and Kate's website, which I put in the chat, really has a lot of super fun ideas for what to do with this.
I think just if I'm going to add one thing about just the step, what was really also exciting for us is that we knew we needed to pasteurize to make sure that it could be safe and meet FDA requirements. But what I loved about that original study that was published back in 2013 was that it really showed that the nutrients stayed intact after pasteurization. So that was one of the things that was done. So when I saw that, okay, this pasteurization isn't killing off all the good stuff, because that was one of my immediate thoughts. Like, are we just going to kill all the good stuff if we do this? And they do stay, the phytonutrients do stay intact after pasteurization.
They do. They're very hardy, if you will, just like maple trees. And if you really think about it, when you boil sap, water, the syrup, you're boiling 100 degrees, very intensive. And the compounds are really hardy. They survive.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine pasteurization or filter sterilization. Of course, they're going to survive that. So there you go.
Much quicker. Yeah, absolutely. It's convenient. You can throw it right in your backpack. There you go. Okay, so let's circle back around to the sustainability question. We do want to talk about the sustainability of this process, and we've kind of touched on it with using that. And we also do have a question from the chat, if we could fold that in, about not only the sustainability of this process, but also the impact on climate, if there's any information on that out there.
Kate, you want to take it?
Sure.
Yes.
I'll start, and then you can build on that. So
yeah, I can jump in. Yep.
One of the exciting things when we first started, our origin story was that what really gravitated us towards this product was that just the beneficial, the functional effects, the deliciousness, and how it made us feel. What we realized quickly after, that this was also a very, very sustainable product, and that it really encourages responsible forestry and encourages trees to be standing. So when you chop down a maple tree, it takes 40 years for it to be able to be tapped again for syrup or water. And so it's really for everyone's best interest to make sure that the tapping is done in a very responsible way, and that you can't just clear forests and then replant them and hope that the next year you're going to get a harvest out of them. And so as long as the trees are being tapped and there is an economic demand for maple water, for maple syrup, these forests are going to stay standing. And so I think one of the very exciting things too, just to go into climate change without getting too much into this, I'd say there's a lot of studies and data showing that forests and large forests that are staying standing can help mitigate with climate change. And so in an indirect way, this is a sustainable way to attack that issue we're having.
For sure. And on the flip side of that too, this industry is also affected by climate change because, as you know, the window of opportunity to collect sap depends on having cold nights and warm days, which really happens in the end of winter into early spring. So it may be 3 weeks from a certain time this year, which may vary next year. So the production and the collection is really tricky, and so it's good for the environment for sure, but the environment for sure is also affecting this industry. But yes, the sugar maple trees and red maple. Red maple is our state of Rhode Island. It's our state tree, Acer rubrum. The sugar maple is New York's state tree, Acer saccharum. Both are tapped to collect sap, which is then can be sap water or taken boiled to produce syrup. But the trees are only found in this part of the world, and certainly, as Kate said, you know, with good forestry management, we really want to keep the trees healthy. These guys have worked it out to a science. I've had the privilege of visiting some sugar bushes, and they know how old the tree has to be, how many taps per tree, depending on the size of the, I guess, the circumference of the trunk, when they rest it, and when they collect just enough. They're not killing the trees off. It's like, again, I don't know, maybe like giving blood for humans. We donate some blood, but not too much to kill us off. So it's a similar thing. It's like the lifeblood of the tree, maple water, if you will. And it's indeed, you know, the water is really so rich and full of nutrients that's good for the tree and good for us.
You are walking me right into my next question. So, because we've sort of talked about the phytochemicals in there, firstly, I definitely want to give more of a definition, if you both could, on phytochemicals, maybe identify if there's some popular ones that we often hear about in there, and then talk about why you would want to incorporate maple water into your beverage rotation.
Absolutely. Let me take this one, Kate. So phyto, it's a Latin word meaning plant, and phytochemicals are plant chemicals. So many of you, the listeners who are very educated, I'm sure you know that it's good to eat a diet which is rich of colorful fruit and vegetables. Why? Well, it's beyond fiber and vitamins and minerals that you can get from plant foods. You're also getting a wide, diverse type of phytochemicals, which the term has been called phytonutrients. So these are compounds which can give you a health benefit that goes beyond basic nutrition. Hence, you know, drink your green tea or drink your red wine in moderation, or coffee, or eat your broccoli and have your garlic, eat your berries and tomatoes and all that stuff. So indeed, in our work, what we did find was that maple phytonutrients are very diverse. As Kate said, at the time we published that paper, we had identified about 40 some phytonutrients. Since then, we have identified more than 60. And these phytonutrients are also present in several other healthy plant foods like tea and berries and compounds you'll find like in red wine and in coffee. So the first cocktail, if you will, of phytonutrients in combination with minerals and vitamins and sucrose, we believe, and we've shown in certain studies in animals, and there are some emerging studies in humans, that it would impart a biological effect and a health beneficial property to this food, which is superior to just refined sugar alone, because it's just not sucrose. It's sucrose plus all of these constituents. So incorporation of this beverage, it's a functional beverage, as Kate said. What do we mean by functional? A lot of consumers are looking for the consumption of beverages, which not only for its hydrating properties may give them constituents which would have a biological effect. So it's just not plain water. So, you know, vitamin water is very popular, or other flavor types of water, or as Kate said, coconut water. So in that space, maple water is this new emerging functional beverage, which is water plus, and the studies are really showing how healthy it is for us. And I think one of the purposes that we're here today is to educate and kind of let people know what this is, because many people just do not know about maple water. And just a last point to get back to your You had said we had a USDA grant, which is indeed correct, to identify what constitutes authentic maple water, because it's not reverse osmosis water, which is collected during the processing of sap to get the syrup. It's not syrup, which is diluted in water. This is actually the pure sap, as Kate said, it's collected and then pasteurized, so it's safe for consumption. So it's straight from the trees, nothing added, just to make sure that it's safe for people to consume. It goes through the pasteurization or cleaning up process.
Kate, do you have anything to add from that to that? And also, have you ever drank it straight out of the tree? I am curious.
I have.
Ah!
Yes. During the season, there'll be. We actually do taste. We test for the sugar content and the turbidity, but we also do sample every batch just to make sure that everything is good. So make sure that quality control is very hands-on, in addition to the instruments that test everything. But so he did a great job of going over all of that. I think, this is something from a functionality standpoint, people love that there are electrolytes and minerals and polyphenols. It's an excellent source of manganese. It's one of the, it's a large amount of manganese in each serving, which manganese has been shown to help with bone health and blood sugar control. So those are all things that, their studies have shown manganese can do. We also have done and shown some studies that are not published. A couple of them are in the process of being published, but that is faster hydrating than plain water alone. It boosts athletic aerobic performance and VO2 max, and it also reduces oxidative stress. So those were done by Dr. David Bellar, and he did that at University of Louisiana Lafayette. So I'm hoping, I've been told that the study should be published very soon. So I'm very excited about those. COVID did slow down the publishing of that. So I'm anxious to get those to be able to share out with the world. But, overall, I think people feel very hydrated when they drink, aside from the anecdotal evidence shows people just feel very hydrated, feel very energetic from drinking this, and it really has to go back to the functional components that are present in the sap water.
Well, those are exciting results. And I did have another question about that. So following those results, then it would be something that would act sort of as a recovery beverage for an athlete. Is that where you're thinking that space would be for this?
Yes, so people can drink it pre-workout, during workout, post-workout. So because it is
like water.
Yeah, yes, same as water. So I do drink it. Yeah, water plus, exactly. I personally drink it, before, during, and after. It's great because it does. I mean, I've had other Ironman triathletes drink this after an Ironman. It was like, I don't know what's in your water, but nothing like it helps me bounce back the way that maple water does. So we do have a lot of people that, have that firsthand experience to really support all this science. And I think, it's great as a recovery option. You could mix it with protein and have an optimal protein recovery smoothie as well.
Yeah, and while you're on that, actually, because that was something that I had originally wondered, because I saw the carbonated one before the flat, and I wanted to talk about that. Can you actually talk about the taste? We have a question about, does it have a sweet taste? Is it reminiscent of syrup? Describe it to us. Paint us a picture.
So it is a subtle maple flavor, a little bit of a vanilla flavor as well. It is very subtle. It's not like you're drinking syrup. I think most people are very pleasantly surprised. So when we do samplings at grocery stores, people will sometimes like, oh, is this going to be, I don't want it to be sweet. And they think they might be drinking syrup. And it's not like that at all. It's very refreshing. It's very hydrating. And it has a very versatile flavor that most people really enjoy.
Yeah, just to also clarify that when you're cooking sap water to become syrup, you're caramelizing, you're creating odor and flavor for which maple syrup is known for.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, you're not doing that. So you don't have that odor or the flavor of syrup, but there's that hint of that natural slight hint. And I know there's a question about calories, which Kate can answer a little bit about a slight. I like a little earthy, slight hint of sweetness because it's not going to be sweet as syrup because this is going to take 40 liters of this to become 1 liter of syrup, and you can do the math. So you know, it's really a refreshing beverage. I'm sure Kate will tell you more about its versatility. But yes, so I wish you guys could try it. I know there are some questions. Where can you get it from? So back to you, Amanda.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know what I was expecting the first time I tried it. I think I did align it so much with, oh, this is going to be similar, which you're right. Coconut water is very like pungent. And I was so pleasantly surprised. I had the carbonated version. I could have mixed it with anything. It would have been excellent. And I'm excited to try the flat. Another thing I wanted to talk about, though, along the lines of taste, is the fact that these other recovery beverages, like the Gatorade and the vitamin water, and you know, as a dietitian, I try and really promote whole food choices over artificial food choices. And one of the reasons I steer away from those is because of the added sugar. So can we talk about this product as something that doesn't have any added sugar? And just as a definition for our participants, there's naturally occurring sugar, and that's what's on your label. And then you have a secondary line that says added sugar. This is all sugar that's been added to the product after it's left its natural state and entered processing. So if you could talk about that. Or if there's anything else to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no sugar added ingredient and product. So the still product has just one ingredient. I mean, we don't even have to put an S on the ingredient label, just organic maple water. Our sparkling is flavored with a little bit of organic fruit juice as well. However, I think what makes this so great is that, you know, there's a lot of products right now on the market right now that have that added sugars or added hyper sweeteners. And this has, you know, no sugar, no added sugar, no added sweeteners. Everything is naturally and inherent. And I think it really makes, to me, that was one of the most appealing things, is I just didn't want those added sugars or, you know, added sweeteners. I'm not a fan of the stevia, erythritol, xylitols. I stay away from all of those sweeteners. And so really, even though there's a lot more natural products on the market right now, if you look at the label, there are very few that have a great taste, but that don't have any of these added sugars or sweeteners.
Absolutely.
Right, and yeah, and the I mean the Tetra Pak that I have here is a half a liter. I don't know if you can see, it's 45 calories. And you know, there's a manganese is about I don't have my glasses on, 80%, I think, daily value. 8, yep, here we go.
Mhm.
Yep, iron, potassium, calcium, potassium, and then the rest of everything else is 0. Total fat 0, sodium 0, cholesterol 0, carbohydrates 12 grams because of the natural sugar in it. So low calorie for sure compared to something like a sports drink, or even coconut water. Many times have additives, a lot of additives.
That's Water Plus. That's excellent. I just think it's so wonderful that there's no added sugar, because that's really area of concern for us in nutrition and dietetics right now. Is now we've got that line on our nutrition label and we want people to be looking at it. So this is just so wonderful to have a product that has the natural sugar plus the benefits. So on top of all the benefits, it also is part of many different fun recipes. So Kate, if you could talk to us a little bit about how this is used beyond just as a direct beverage, but what else can it be used in?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so we find them.
Yes.
Yes.
So from where you find it, so someone asked Eastern Mass, so that's Whole Foods and Wegmans. If you're not in the New England area, then Amazon or drinksimple.com is the best place to find it. We are in a bunch of other places, but or you can send us an email at kateandjeff@drinksimple.com to figure out some other places in your location. But yeah, I think one of the cool things was when we launched, people would love drinking it, whether, you know, they were sitting at their desk, they were out and about on an adventure, they were doing workouts. However, then people got so creative because it was so relatively new to the market that people were like, oh, have you tried it in this? Have you tried it in this? And so we started doing recipes on our website, but also people really started creating things and doing recipes for us. And so, you know, one of the big things immediately people started doing was smoothies and recovery smoothies, anti-inflammatory smoothies, immunity smoothies. So there's lots of different recipes out there for that, but you could also just substitute if you were using coconut water or a milk or something like that, you could substitute as the liquid in your favorite smoothie recipe. Coffee was a really cool one that people make cold brew coffee. So they would brew the beans and then be able to either mix it with a concentrate with cold brew or actually do the process of the whole brewing from the beginning to the end with the maple water. So that was a cool one. We've got overnight oats. People make cocktails, lots of different cocktail recipes that people have gotten creative with. Bars and restaurants have put it in cocktails too, which is cool. Large maple water ice cubes with bourbon over the top has been a very popular one. So there's a lot. I love hearing from people of what they're using maple water in. We've had people, because it's in the springtime, we had heard people were making ham and basting different meats in it, which there's so many different things that people have done, and even brewing beer. So if you make beer at home, you can brew your beer, or then we've also done some collaborations. Right now we have a collaboration with the non-alcoholic beer company Athletic Brewing, and they brewed their non-alcoholic beer with our maple water, and it's been a fan favorite. So lots of stuff out there. And if you do try anything, please write in. I would love to hear what you're doing.
What's your favorite thing, if you had to say?
Oh, what's my favorite thing?
Tough.
Well, I would say I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's a thing that is part of my day every day. It's after my workout, I do mix a protein with maple water, and I have it as my recovery drink to bounce back. And so that's very much part of my routine and something that is ingrained in that routine every day. So then other than that, I would say the cold brew coffee is a close second.
Coffee. I'm going to have to try those. Okay. Well, I have one more question here, and I want to circle it back around to research and the work that Dr. Seeram is doing with authenticating this maple water. So where are we at on that research, and what does the future for this product look like?
Yes, we are making great progress. As Kate mentioned, we had published a paper a while ago in trying to understand what's in maple water, but what's not done is the things like these, educating people about what is maple water, what constitutes authentic maple water, defining its standard of identifying what the constituents are, educating folks about what it is. So we're 1 year into the grant. It's a three-year grant. I have a grad student. She's listening in right now. I should shout out Kara Tori and one of my colleagues, Dr. Hangma. They're both listening in. I'm working very hard in terms of the chemistry, looking at some of the biological effects, and then again disseminating the information at forums like this. So Amanda, thank you so much for having us, at least on this platform. I just want to say one thing that my favorite. I'm a big cocktail guy, and there are two natural products which are really unique and niche to this part of the world. It's cranberry juice and maple water. I like to put them together. I'll put a little bit of vodka in it. It's just perfect with some ice.
That's a Cape Codder, right? Is that what
There you
that's
go.
called? A little Cape Codder there. Oh, yeah, and fresh cranberries right now. Whew, that does sound good.
Right, they're two really just a good perfect pair. To put cranberries and maple together. They're only found in this part of the world. These native crops. Maple is wild harvested. It's just a fantastic pair and a fantastic combination, I think, with health benefits for both.
Yeah, Kate, you'll have to get that one up there, the super cocktail.
Yes, I definitely, and I'm going to do
Seeram super cocktail. Cocktail plus.
Exactly. I love it. That will be up by the end of the week.
Absolutely. Oh, let's see. Somebody wants it to call the Rhode Islander. That's good. Well, we do have a lot of questions in the chat about around like the trees and the tapping and all of that, and I want to get to it. But I think the last thing I'd like from both of you is just sort of a takeaway message, because this is about exposure of this product. So what would you say to tell a friend or a family member about this? Like, hey, there's this new product, and what would you kind of want them to know about it as a send-off?
Yeah, I can go first, Kate. So as a professor, as someone who's from this state, land grant university, for me, it's about supporting the local economy, eating local. This is truly a product which is from this part of the world. Coconut water comes from tropical regions, as many other foods do. So support the local economy. This is a product which is allowing the industry to diversify its product portfolio beyond just syrup alone. And the education that's happening right now is for a friend to tell a friend to try this natural product, because you're supporting not only the producers like Kate, the local farmers, but again, the trees. So it's giving back to the land and connecting to the earth, if that makes sense. So for me, it's this deep link, a cultural link that's very significant. You know, this is really just a crop that's here around us. So let's support it. If we don't do it, who's going to do it?
I love that. And that was one of the things that really drew us towards it. This was something local when we first started. And to build on that, I would just say, if you're sharing this, what maple water is that it's directly from the tree. It's not the syrup. It's not sugary. It's loaded with these phytonutrients, the antioxidants, the polyphenols, the electrolytes. And it's a really no sugar added, no sweetener added, low sugar way to hydrate, feel better, and really live your best every day. So, would love for you to share with your friends, because there are these misconceptions about what it is, and we've got all this great research that we'd love to get out there.
Those are great takeaways. I think we've got it all. It tastes good. It's water plus. It's great for our local economy. And we've got a lot of recipes to try. So thank you both so much for this panel. And I think we're ready to jump into questions, if that's okay.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to start at the top here, because I know there was a lot about, the first question was about the species of maple. So you touched a little bit on this, Dr. Seeram, talking about this person's asking, in Rhode Island, we have the red maple, the Norway maple. Have any studies been done to compare the nutritional content in the various species? And have these comparisons had any variation depending on where the tree and sap are extracted from, urban versus rural, Southern New England versus Northern New England? Complex question.
Complex question. So yes, to answer the question, there are several North American maple species, predominantly the two which are used for taking sap to get the syrup are the sugar maple, Acer saccharum, and the red maple, Acer rubrum. There are other maple species like the Norway maple and the sycamore maple and the silver maple. We have done some work in our lab in terms of looking at the phytonutrients in various parts of the plant, as well as some of the saps. There is, on a macro level, similarities among the syrup, among the sap and the syrup obtained from those sap. Of course, one could guess that there's geographical differences too. We have not done the comparisons of sap collected from a maple tree in Rhode Island versus one from Vermont. But there are geographical differences which has been done by a group in Canada. So they do see variations in mineral content depending on the soil where the tree is found. So indeed there are variations, but I'd say on a macro level, it's pretty consistent among the constituents in sap, but there's a lot of differences in the leaf constituents and so among the species. I hope I was able to answer that. I think, and maybe Kate can clarify. Kate is in Vermont, and maybe it's predominantly sugar maple, Kate, I don't know, or a mixture of sugar and red.
Yeah, I mean, predominantly the trees that are being tapped are sugar maple.
Or sugar.
So that, that's what we use. There's a lot of people that have thought, okay, could you tap other trees in different species? And right now we are just focused on the maple trees and really gaining traction with that current product. But in the future, it's definitely very interesting to explore the different species.
Yeah, there was actually another question on here about sap from other trees.
Yeah, this is interesting. Some people may know walnut sap is consumed. Yeah, black walnuts. However, other tree saps have found it in our food chain, but not at this large, abundant, commercially produced. This is probably the largest commercially produced tree sap which has been in our food chain. Maple sap, that is. There's some niche products again from other trees. Collecting sap is an art, and it's also based on science because sap has to flow. And not all trees can do that or have the climatic conditions for that to happen. So it's an interesting phenomenon and technology. So the answer is yes, some other niche, maybe smaller uh, uh, tree saps which are consumed, but for sure, this is the big muscle when it comes to sap in our food chain.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess all trees have sap, right? But I guess you always think sap maple.
Right. Yeah, because they may have sap, but you can't collect them. It wouldn't flow like the way maple does.
Huh.
And it's not
Interesting.
sticky in this case, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that also ties into what I said when I asked Kate if she'd ever had it straight out of the tree. And we have a person here who's asking, wouldn't it be the healthiest and most sustainable without packaging to drink it straight from the tree as it drips out in the late winter?
I'm sure Kate can answer that. Birch sap also, apart from walnut sap is well known. Well, because it's so watery, and Kate, you can probably jump in, as you would expect, if anything, which is watery, is collected and is left, if it's not pasteurized, it's going to start to ferment and bacteria is going to grow. So it goes bad pretty quickly, which is why when they're producing syrup, it moves quickly from collection to the producers who are then reducing it to form sugar. So I don't know, Kate. I don't know. I guess it's like drinking milk from a cow. You can take a chance, but you got to pasteurize it for it to be safe.
Exactly, and it spoils very quickly, and if you drink too much of that, you are probably going to have some GI issues. So, usually you can drink a little bit of it, but you can't drink the quantity that you can when it's been pasteurized.
Absolutely. And just then to remind everybody as well that the Dr. Seeram has said that the phytochemicals do sustain the processing, which retains a lot of its nutrition. Absolutely. So I thought this question was really interesting. I did not know this. This person says that the character of the sap varies from early in the sap run till the end of the sap run. So then how does that affect this product?
Yeah, so we target a certain time of the harvest season to collect our sap that we have deemed our brand of being the highest quality and best tasting. So we aim for the middle of it. We let the first run go, and then the later run, which is usually made into commercial syrup, the dark syrup, we let that go into syrup. So we really aim for that middle part of the season. But yes, you're absolutely right. There are differences at different points of the season of the quality of sap.
That's interesting. Dr. Seeram, have you looked into any of the nutrition of the different times?
Yeah, so again, to get back to Kate's point, so we know that maple syrup has different grades based on its color. You can have a very dark grade or a lighter grade, and it's because sap during the season of collection, there is bacteria growth, and the plant is it's budding, and to the end of the season, so it progresses until it gets very dark, and the very end of the season is where it develops a body off flavor and the color is very, very dark. So what we have found, we haven't looked at sap collected at different times, but we have looked at syrup of different grades. And the darker the grade of the syrup, the more the amount of phytonutrients. But you compromise again with taste and flavor. So it depends on the consumer, what they like. But I guess I enjoy to hear Kate's, I've never asked her this, so it's good to know. And they're collecting in the middle, where you probably, that's a sweet spot to make sure that everything is just right.
Yeah, Kate, how did your company come about knowing, like, do you have a history in the forestry, or do you have, who's the forestry experts here?
Yes. No, so my business partner Jeff and I, we both of us didn't have any history or experience. I mean, both of us were, we have very curious minds and dedicated minds. So we did read a lot about, the maple industry, so to speak. We read Mike Farrell's book on who was at Cornell at the time, and really learned and threw ourselves into just being a sponge to learn as much as we possibly could. We also just started cold calling. So when I speak to entrepreneur classes at different universities in the area, this is the one thing I always say is that, we just started picking up the phone and cold calling people and getting information and getting little nuggets of information. And even if the whole call was negative, or the end result was a no, this can't be done, or no, you shouldn't do this, we would get little bits of information that really helped us propel forward. And so if we got off every call or every meeting or every farmer visit, that we learned a little bit more, then we viewed it as a success. And so then over time of doing this, we were able to really have that deep knowledge.
Oh, hard work out there. You're putting in the hard work. Got to respect that. That's awesome. Excellent. So speaking of, now that you're this tapping expert, about how many taps do you have to collect your maple water?
Yeah, so we don't do the actual tapping, but we work with farmers and suppliers to do that. They do a very good job of what they do. So we let them do what they do best, because they're also making syrup as well. And so then we just collect, but we work primarily with one farmer that has 5,700 acres and preserving that amount. And so it differs per tap per tree. It's, hundreds of thousands of taps on that land. And it's usually, I say it's, most trees have one tap, but as they grow, you can put multiple taps in the trees.
So do you have like a count? Is it like hundreds?
Oh, yeah, it's about like 250,000.
250,000
taps, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're located primarily.
So we source up in Vermont and then upstate New York as well.
In upstate New York. Okay.
This all kind of in the same region, but across the state lines.
That's why you're in my favorite Wegmans.
Yeah.
My favorite. Okay, so I'm gonna have to read this one verbatim because I am new to the maple area. Okay. I make syrup very small scale for family. During filtration before bottling, the sand, white solids which have crystallized out of the supersaturated solution, is collected. Would you know the primary constituents of sand? And can the sand be saved and rediluted essentially for something akin to maple water?
No.
Reread. Oh, okay.
No, you can't take the sand and dilute it and make maple water. Maple water is sap obtained straight from the trees. Maple sand, which is indeed, I know what it is, it's formed when you're boiling sap to get the syrup. The consistency is like sand. It has a lot of mineral content in it. I could see a potential cosmetic application for that maple sand. So hint, hint. But we haven't done much chemistry on it, but no, it's according to our definition of maple water. Maple water is not, you're not going to get maple water by diluting anything. It's just straight up sap collected from the trees, which has been pasteurized or sterilized somehow, so it's safe for consumption.
Okay, interesting. I'm learning so much about maple sand over here. I know, I'm thinking like maple sand scrub. Is that what you're thinking? That's good. Okay, so now I'm going kind of circle back around to sort of the nutrition nuts and bolts here. So you said 45 calories. This is a question about the calorie count and the amount of sugar. Can we review again what those were in the products?
Absolutely. So the original maple water, it's 16.9 fluid ounces in that carton. So I like to say that because sometimes people put the calorie count as 8 fluid ounces when it is more per serving. So it is,
I know.
yes, I'm sure you deal with this a lot. So it's 16.9 fluid ounces. So there's one serving for the carton. It's 45 calories, 12 grams of carbs, and 10 grams of sugar. That's a new packaging size for us. So I'm just making sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can easily enjoy the whole thing.
Yes. And then the sparkling product, that is 40 so each one of the flavors, we have a bunch of different flavors. They're all 40 calories, and 7 grams of sugar. And then of course, in all products, it's 0 added sugars.
Excellent. Okay. And then what is the shelf life of these products?
So we've done some, go ahead, Kate.
So from when we produce, it's all shelf stable, and it's 2 years. So 24 months from the date of manufacturing.
Yeah, we can confirm that. We've worked with Kate. It's not published as yet, but we have, once it's open, of course, you got to refrigerate it, but sitting closed on the shelf, 2 years for sure.
And that retains all of those phytonutrients and all of that as well?
Yes.
That's excellent. Is it impacted by heat, perchance, if you would let it in your backpack during your race from the sun?
No.
Protected by that?
Yeah, I've had it in lots of all different temperatures, and no, it's not impacted by heat.
Okay. Okay. Excellent.
As I said, the phytonutrients are very hardy.
Okay, I think we have one more question here. And this is about it as a recovery beverage. And you talked about it on its way to finding out about athletic performance, about hydration. So this participant would like to know, would this be used as a replacement for a daily intake of water, or would you just recommend it as a beverage for working out?
So I'll start with that one. I think water is obviously a great beverage to have as well. I'm not going to say just don't drink water. But I do think that there is a place to drink this outside of just working out and in exercise scenarios. I think that most people are very chronically dehydrated because they're not drinking enough water or hydration type drinks. They're drinking coffee or energy drinks or things throughout the day. And so really to help your mind function your best, it's a really great way to stay hydrated. My favorite, other than using it to work out, one of my favorite rituals is drinking a bottle right when I wake up, before coffee, before tea, before any caffeine, to just really rehydrate from the night and really jumpstart the day. So I think there's a really great place for it, but I won't say don't drink water as well. Water is a great thing to be drinking too.
She says, thank you. That's what she was hoping. Okay. And then on top of price and shelf stability, what is the pricing for cans and for the larger size, the 16.9?
Yeah, so it depends on the store and location, but it's going to be about $2.99 for the single serve beverages. And then we do have a 1 liter as well, and that's $4.99 for the liter.
Okay, excellent. So definitely competitively priced there compared to the other in this space. I would say a little bit less. I have another question here, which I think is intriguing. Why not just call it maple sap instead of maple water? It's really
people think it's sap is sticky.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. This person asked, was it a marketing decision?
Yeah. If I were to go back 100 years ago, I'll say maple nectar, not maple syrup. But here we are.
So maple nectar instead of syrup.
Yeah. So we're saying maple water, sap. People may think it's sticky, and you have to understand that I'm not from this part of the world. I don't even know this thing existed before I came to the USA, onto the north, the East Coast. So it's a sharp learning curve us here, as well as other people in other parts of the world think that sap is very sticky. So interchangeably, you hear maple sap water or just maple water.
Yes, it's definitely a marketing decision. When we first launched, we had the front of our packaging said maple water, and our ingredient actually said organic maple sap. And we got so many questions, and people were very, very confused. They thought sap and syrup were the same thing. And so the water terminology really helps most people understand that this is hydration and refreshing. A drink rather than syrup.
And it is 99% water.
I was going to ask. That's perfect. So 99% water. Excellent. Excellent. We have some orders going in. Someone put their order in for the water and for the orange mango. They can't wait.
Yes. Good. Thank you so much.
So that is going to be very exciting. I will say a couple of people asked where in Eastern Mass. I did get it on Cape Cod. That's where I told Kate I found it. I was in Barnstable, and I did get it out there. And you said you could get it at
Whole Foods, Wegmans. Those are, the best places to find it right now. And then obviously online. There's always online option too.
Okay, excellent. Well, I think that's all we have. Any other Q&A or chat questions or anything else that the lovely panelists would like to add?
I really appreciate everyone being here. And if there's any additional questions, you can find us on Instagram at Drink Simple. Our email is kateandjeff@drinksimple.com. That's our general inbox, but I monitor it. So you are talking to a person if you send it through there. And any questions or follow-ups, feel free to reach out.
Do you have socials, Kate?
Yep. So it's Drink Simple, one word, except on Twitter, it's drink_simple.
Okay. Putting that in the chat. Give them a follow. I know you guys do fun recipes and highlights of your training on there. Do you have a race coming up?
I just did Ironman Arizona last week, so I am done for the year. I did a couple full Ironman races this fall, and so I'm resting now.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? Actually, one more just came in here. Is the packaging purposefully in cardboard instead of plastic?
So we actually just switched out of plastic. If you go to our website, you actually will see a product there that is still in plastic, but we are phasing that out. It's just more of the phase out process. But we just switched out of plastic into the sustainable, eco-friendly cartons. It was a big undertaking, and we are very proud and excited to be able to do that. The sustainability better reflects our brand values and the product that's inside, that this is a very sustainable product. It was very, we did the plastic because it really ensured us to be able to not add preservatives. At the time, we didn't have access to the cartons. And so that was very important to us, but it always just felt like, well, we're putting the sustainable, healthful product into single serve plastic. How do we evolve out of that? And so it had been a goal for a while. And this past September, we successfully was able to migrate out of plastic.
That's wonderful. And then those Tetra Paks are able to go right to the recycling?
So Tetra Pak needs to be at a recyclable facility that recycles Tetra Paks. So you do have to check to make sure that your facility does do the Tetra Paks. More and more and more are coming online. I think when we first started this, there were very, very few, but there are more. And one of the things that I always thought about is like a lot of, even when you put plastic into recycling, it's a very small percentage that get recycled. And so if it ultimately ends up on the ground or in the ocean, the cartons are a sustainable or more sustainable option, even if they don't get recycled.
I am fairly certain that our Rhode Island Central landfill does do Tetra Paks.
Oh, perfect.
So if you're living in the area of Rhode Island where your dump is directly the central landfill, I know that they do that. They also recycle styrofoam there, for a fun fact.
Oh, nice.
In our central landfill, yes. Anything else to add, Dr. Seeram?
No, just check out our URI Maple website. There's a lot of maple research that we're doing, and I'm so happy that Kate was able to join us. She has really been an important part of our group's research, working with public-private partnership in this case, which is important for us. And Kate, I thank you again for being so open and working with university. And to you, Amanda, you're a perfect host. I'm going to say cheers. I'm going to off to come by with some cranberry juice and a bit of vodka as soon as I get off. But yeah, it was fun.
It was really fun. Thank you. So informative. Get out there and try your new Water Plus and share it with a friend. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.